It's fortunate that one is able to still have, after the passage of some 65 or so years, the very item that has been so greatly influential in shaping my destiny. And here it is. It's a book published in the late 1920s called Men and Machines by Stuart Chase. As a graduate engineer, it was natural to gravitate to a book of this kind because it describes the fundamentals of my profession, engineering. However, in coming to a rather lengthy description of the inventions of Leonardo da Vinci, I was surprised at the large number of such inventions that are described here, some page and a half. Now, we all knew of Leonardo as a great artist, having painted the most important lay painting in history, that of Mona Lisa, as well as the most famous religious painting, The Last Supper. To credit such an artist with a long list of inventions seemed just too much. Being young and highly skeptical, I could not justify or accept Stuart Chase's listing. However, my curiosity was aroused, and I therefore started to search, what did Leonardo really do? Some 70 years have passed, and I'm still at it.
Bern is a key person in the development of history of science, not only over the 35-year period, but prior to that. Not just, incidentally, because of his genuine interest and participation in scholarship, as demonstrated by the Bern Library publications and Dibner Library and related publications, but also his role as a patron and indeed sponsor of key projects in the field.
I was born in the Ukraine, the youngest of 8 siblings. We came here between the years 1902 and 1904, landing through Ellis Island, and here the opportunities for education were opened, and I took full advantage of them, as is evident from my professional degree and the 5 honorary doctorates that have been accorded to me. I am not a man of pride. I am more responsive to duty. If I am proud of anything, it is for having served in the military during the First and the Second World Wars. The only personal element that I permit myself in my library office is a photograph of 16 men who returned from the various theaters of operations in the Second World War, all descendants of my father. That is an element of pride. We made a presentation to the Smithsonian Institution of our most important books in 1976. And in that number were 320 science incunables. I believe that to be certainly one of the largest collections ever gathered. I am often asked, what was the motivation that prompted the gift of the books to the Smithsonian? And the answer is that, being always aware of my immigrant status, I feel ever grateful to this nation for having permitted my family to come here and for having given me the opportunities to do what I can for this nation. We were asked if we would make a contribution to the Smithsonian, and we gladly responded. And that has resulted in the transfer of some 11,000 volumes to found a national library in the history of science at the Smithsonian. I think books are fundamental and will be ever with us. The other forms of communication, of storage of information will be, I'm sure, supplementary. The book communicates in ways that are limited in other forms. The computer memory, of course, can be more in numbers, but the book combines both the graphic, the color sense, the form, and it has been with us for hundreds, or in its manuscript form for thousands of years.
This is J Street Metrotech. Transfer is available to the A, B, and R train.
Metrotech, one of America's most successful urban redevelopment projects. Office park, college campus, and vibrant social space. But what led to its creation?
When I came into office in 1978, the city was on the edge of bankruptcy. Landlords abandoned their buildings because tenants weren't paying rent. Crime had escalated, and you had vandalism and graffiti. I mean, it was a very tough time.
New York City in the 1970s. From a high water mark of 3.8 million jobs in 1969, more than 600,000 jobs disappeared by 1976. 800,000 people moved away, more than 100,000 units stood vacant.
In the 70s and 80s, students tell me they would come out of class in one building and run across the area because there were gunshots going off as crack deals would go down the wrong way. So if we're still in that environment, we're basically gone.
It would take a visionary to lead NYU Poly towards a better future.
Do you remember when George Bugliarello came to be president, they interviewed George at the University Club in Manhattan because they didn't want him to see the campus, because they knew if he saw the campus, he'd say no. So he says yes. Then they take him out to the campus, and George sees this place. It's like, what did I do? So I think that's probably the day that the dream started for George.
George Bugliarello, president of NYU Poly from 1973 to 1994, and one of the powerhouses behind what became known as Metrotech.
George's original view was this was going to be a corporate research park where like Pfizer's and AT&T had their research centers.
Together with Brooklyn Borough President Howie Golden, George worked to attract others to the cause.
It was a battle too, because the city wasn't that interested, the developers weren't that interested, until he connected with Bruce Ratner and Mayor Koch and others that began to get the idea. It took a lot of work.
The land had been assembled, but nobody wanted to move downtown Brooklyn. They were leery of crime. And so what we ultimately did together was to deal with the crime problem by guaranteeing that the city would make a special ongoing effort committing specific numbers of police officers to the area. And on that basis, Chase Manhattan decided it would move in. Other corporations decided that they would move in and create what they hoped would be another Silicon Valley. It is so close to Manhattan, the transportation facilities are superb. It therefore became a great opportunity for companies who were involved with Lower Manhattan, Wall Street.
In 1989, construction for the 16-acre, 4.7 million square foot urban research park begins. The ribbon-cutting ceremony for the first Polytechnic building, the Dibner Library, was celebrated 3 years later.
Metrotech put some shine back into Brooklyn, and it indicated to the business community and the leadership of New York City and beyond that perhaps Brooklyn was worth investing in. And it took Bruce Ratner to understand that the future of New York City in many ways depended upon the success of Brooklyn.
An established anchor for downtown Brooklyn, Metrotech spurs Ratner to develop the Atlantic Center nearby in 1996, and in 1997, the Brooklyn Marriott opens across the street from Poly's main building.
Tech changed how Brooklynites looked at themselves, and it told the world that Brooklyn was worth investing in.
It's an unbelievable success. Unbelievable success. And I'm proud I had something to do with it.